everybody. I'm Jesse Weber, and welcome back to Law and Crime Now. We have a big show for you. We're going to be focusing on the Dan Markel murder case as well as the Scott Nelson trial. I'm going to have with me executive trial producer Cathy Russin, who's been in those chat rooms, hearing your questions, hearing your comments, and she's going to be here talking with our guest today about your questions. So let's get right into it. I want to start right now with Dan Markel, that FSU law professor who was gunned down in his garage in 2014. Two people are currently in prison over this. Luis Rivera, the state's star witness, he's currently in prison on second-degree murder charges. He testified against Sigfredo Garcia, who was convicted of first-degree murder, sentenced to life in prison. And then we have Katherine Magbanua. Now, she is believed to be the one, or accused to be the one, who organized this killing. And really what's interesting about her case, which we covered along with Garcia's, she was not only tried, but it was a hung jury. Now, her retrial was supposed to happen in April, but clearly with COVID-19 going on, that was pushed back. This is actually a fascinating case, and we have with us Magbanua's attorneys, who we're going to bring on in a little bit. But before we do that, let's just take a step back and try to understand the motive here. It's alleged that this was a murder for hire organized by Dan Markel's ex-wife's family, the Adelsons. Well, let's go back to when Magbanua took the stand in her own defense, and she was asked if it made sense that Sigfredo Garcia, her on-again, off-again boyfriend, would have done a favor for Charlie Adelson. Take a look.
Would you agree with me that those two instances are an accurate reflection of my client's feelings on Charlie Adelson?
Yes, sir.
Didn't like him?
At all.
Didn't like the fact that you were in a relationship with him?
Yes,
correct?
Sir. Yeah.
You'll agree with me that Mr. Adelson knew who my client was, correct?
Yes, sir.
And that's evidenced by the fact that there's been a text message correspondence that your own attorneys have shown where you ask Mr. Adelson if my client is called, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you did this because you were concerned about my client maybe hurting Charlie Adelson?
Yes, sir.
Or, I guess, at the minimum, cussing him out or saying certain ugly things to him. Would that be fair?
Mm-hmm.
And Mr. Adelson in the text message says something about he wants to take me deep-sea fishing, correct?
Yes, sir.
That doesn't mean that they were going to go on a friendly fishing trip together, right?
No.
All right, so let's get some answers right now. I want to bring on Catherine Magbanua's attorneys, Tara Kawass and Chris Decoste. It's great to have you both here. Tara, I want to start with you. What is the status of this retrial? Obviously, COVID-19 threw a wrench in everyone's plans.
Well, right now we are just waiting like everyone else because we don't know how it is that they're going to be able to conduct trials and how fast they're going to be able to do that and hold, jury trials. And that's what we are waiting on. So the next court date that we have, I believe, is in June. And that is going to be, we're going to address, I guess, scheduling a feasible trial date. But if the Florida Supreme Court extends the prohibition on jury trials for right now, then that date is going to get pushed back too. So for us, it's just a waiting game.
Okay, well, hopefully we'll be able to cover it here on Law and Crime. Cathy, let's get to a viewer question.
Okay, Chris, this goes right to the clip that we just saw from the trial. Why would Sigfredo Garcia do anything for Charlie Adelson? He hated Charlie Adelson. I questioned this myself throughout the trial. Like, would he do it just for money? Would he do it for Katherine? Except Katherine, if she was involved, would have been doing it for Charlie, and he hated him. So why would he do this?
Cathy, that's a very important question that you've just asked. Why would Sigfredo Garcia do anything for Charles Adelson because of the hatred that the two of them had? The important thing to remember is that Charles Adelson had what Sigfredo Garcia wanted so much, and that was Catherine Magbanua. We said it during the trial, we will say it during the retrial. This is not a case that went through Catherine Magbanua. It was about Catherine Magbanua, a deal between Sigfredo Garcia and Charles Adelson, and part of that deal was Charles Adelson breaking up with Catherine Magbanua, or more specifically, ghosting her right after the murder happened, so that Sigfredo Garcia could have the opportunity to get back together with her.
Okay, so let's talk about that for a second. I want to go to what was played for this jury, a wiretap recording between Sigfredo Garcia and Katherine Magbanua. Let's play that right now.
Listen, I'm going to tell you something right now, and I'm going to make this very clear. I'm going to make something very clear because you're talking belligerent bullshit.
I'm belligerent what?
I'm going to make something very clear, okay?
Up the whole night drinking, and I'm drunk. You haven't spoken to me about anything, and now you're going to come at me?
Why? Because you don't know how to apologize because you were wrong, okay?
You last night.
This is the same thing that happened last time. Listen, I have a more pressing matter that I have to attend to.
Well,
okay?
You know what? I don't feel secure because you take care of everybody else. Where's my security, Suso? When are you going to step up for me? When is that going to happen? Because I feel like everybody else gets the special attention, and then, Katie, you go figure it out. You go figure it out. You figure out the kids. You figure out life. You figure out your partner.
Katie,
Katie,
you're doing this again. This is the same shit. I've been here. I've never felt happier. We were so happy. We were so happy.
Pool. You have to play pool. You have to leave me.
Oh my God, Katie. All right, man. All right. Then fine. Then go. Whatever. Fine. Go. If that's what you need to do to make yourself happy, then I'm not going to hold you back.
What happened to you? Why do you have to go through back everything? After everything we went through, why does it have to go back to square one? Do you know how bad I feel? It's like, again, I feel like I'm getting kidnapped in the day.
Katie, listen.
It's always, no. God, I swear to God. It's just like, it's like I should just go somewhere because it's like you're basically
do that.
Over.
You're
putting me over. You're gonna tell me I'm gonna make a phone call. Are you?
I'm not making that fucking phone call.
But you don't talk.
Look, Katie, you're.
I'm on edge, and I'm gonna be on work on edge again today. You don't think that the mean
I'm pretty sure somebody will come by to soothe, make you feel better.
Are you
just
fucking
Katie,
serious?
listen.
Listen.
I just want you to fucking have a pussy between your legs and act like you have one. If you want to fucking do what you want to do it. I'm going to take care of I'm going to take care of this fucking problem. I'm going to take care of this fucking problem. And then,
what are you going to take care of, Suso? You don't discuss anything with me. You're not even listening.
Because the less you know, the better off, man.
No, you're making moves.
Man, just stop talking on the phone, man. Bye.
That's why. You can't even do anything.
Okay, Tara, I want you to help me out here. My understanding is it's the defense's contention that Katherine Magbanua had nothing to do with Dan Markel. The question is, what was this conversation about then? What was this problem that Sigfredo Garcia is referencing? What's this issues about security and not discussing anything on the phone if she really had nothing to do with what happened to Mr. Markel?
Because you have to look at everything and the dates and the time in a totality. And what you will find is that she has already met with Charlie and had a conversation with him where he has told her that some strange man approached his mother on the street and threatened his mother, and then also mentioned her name. So she goes home and she tells Charlie, okay, I'm gonna make this phone call, but she's not gonna do it herself because she's scared. Who is this person that's on the street that is saying my name? So then she asks her boyfriend, the father of her children, you need to make this phone call for me because I'm scared. If you hear what he says very carefully, he says, the less you know, the better. Stop asking me questions. I am going to take care of my problem. That conversation would have been completely different if Katie was in on this. She would have said, oh my God, they're onto us. Oh my God, you need to go and take care of this. Out of the hours and hours and hours of recordings, they have not one statement that directly implicates her. Everything that the government asks jurors and viewers and everyone to do is to speculate. But if you look at these recordings, it doesn't go with someone who is in the know.
Okay, well, I do want to get more into this. We have to take a break. When we come back, we're going to focus on the Adelsons and what's in store for them potentially. Let's take a quick break. We'll be back here. Welcome back to Law&Crime Now, everybody. We're focusing on the Katherine Magbanua retrial. It was supposed to happen in April, but it was pushed off because of COVID-19. Again, she has been implicated in the murder of Dan Markel. And really the theory here is that she was hired by the Adelsons, Dan Markel's ex-wife's family, to carry out this hit. And that's where I want to go next, the Adelsons. Well, Wendy Adelson, who was Dan Markel's ex-wife, she took the stand during Katherine Magbanua and Sigfredo Garcia's trial. And here's what she had to say.
Do you know if Detective Isom ever tried to reach out to your parents?
I don't think he did.
Do you know if Detective Isom ever tried to speak to your brother Charlie?
I don't think he did.
Now, you are testifying today under a state subpoena, correct?
Correct.
And that state subpoena gives you immunity for your testimony, right?
Yes.
Can you explain to the jury, since you're an attorney, what immunity is?
Immunity is freedom from prosecution.
So that means that anything you say today can't be used against you if the state decides to arrest you later on.
The state isn't going to decide to arrest me.
Do you know if they consider you a suspect?
I don't know.
Now, the life insurance policy that the state was asking you about, have you received any money from the life insurance policy from Mr. Markel?
I don't know if maybe in the beginning, the life insurance that Danny owed me about $100,000 when he died. I do think that his family made that disbursement. I don't know if they paid that through the life insurance policy, but other than that, there's been, the life insurance policy is money put away for the kids. I've never seen it.
Do you have access to that, or you have no control over that?
I have no control over that.
All right. All right, and I have, where did you say, so your boys are now down in Miami with your mother, correct?
At the moment, yes.
Okay. And you stopped letting Danny's parent, or Mr. Markel's parents, see the boys, is that correct?
2 years after Danny died, I stopped visitation.
Okay. Do you have any intention of letting them see their grandchildren again?
I do. We've actually been in discussion the last few weeks.
Okay, I'm back here with Magbanua's attorneys. And Chris, I want to turn to you. The question is this. We had Sam Zanganeh on, I think, a week ago, 2 weeks ago here on the program. He represents Garcia, and he said that there were rumors that if there were two people convicted, that if Sigfredo Garcia and Katherine Magbanua were convicted, there were police lined outside the Adelsons' home ready to make an arrest. What do you have to say about that?
Well, Tara and I did not hear anything about that, hear any information about that. So if it were rumors, myself being a past prosecutor over a decade ago, I could see a prosecutor making a decision if they had all the convictions to make a decision, but we don't know if that was actually the case.
So Tara, I want to go to you. I mean, what is the role that Katherine Magbanua plays here with the Adelsons? Has there been a discussion about working out a deal? You know, the state didn't win the first time around. They have to consider what's going to happen next. Has there been any discussion about what information Katherine Magbanua has that might help investigators go forward against the Adelsons?
We have given the government the opportunity to actually come and speak to Katherine and ask her any questions that they want. We gave this opportunity to them before trial, because for the past 3.5, now we're coming on 4 years that she has been incarcerated, she has maintained her innocence the entire time. So when we discuss pleas with the government, it's with the caveat. They're willing to give her whatever she wants, but it comes with the condition that she has to say, Charlie got me to get Sigfredo to do this. Because if she doesn't give them that, then they can't arrest Charlie. So that's the only reason why she has been in custody this long. She has had that option since day one. And she has spent all of this time in custody because that is not the truth. She can't say that for them. And we did the unprecedented action of allowing them without any promise of immunity. We just said, come on, it's Friday. You go and talk to her. You can ask her anything you want. And they sat there in a room with her and had that opportunity. And when she denied any involvement and knowing anything, we never heard from them again until we saw them Monday morning ready to pick a jury.
Okay. Well, I mean, most people that hear this, they want to focus on the Adelsons, and clearly, I mean, they were a big subject in that trial that we watched. Let's go back to another point. Something else the jury heard was this call between Charlie Adelson and his dental assistant. Take a listen if you haven't heard this.
Hey, what's going on?
He's here asking for records for Katie.
For what?
That she works here.
I wouldn't.
They asked, did she work there? I was like, yeah, she works there, but I don't know what you want. So remember we sent that.
Erica.
Yes.
Do me a favor. I'm not there right now. And I'm in surgery. But it's not my office. It's my dad's office. So I can't give anything out.
Right.
So, I don't have access to it. I don't know where anything is. I would not speak to anybody. Listen, you can talk to whoever you want. I shouldn't say I'll talk to anybody. I mean, it's not my office. The office was sold back to my dad, actually, a long time ago. So tell them that you're talking to the wrong Dr. Adelson. I mean, it's not your office. You can't give out records.
They said within 20 days of Florida statutes, provide above cause with reason.
Are they there now, or are they just standing?
They're there, but I'm in the back. I'm in the back. They're just waiting for me to come back.
Oh, and they want records?
Yes.
Do me a favor. I'm going to call you from a landline on your cell phone, okay?
Okay.
All right, bye.
All right. Look, no one in the Adelson family has been charged. No one's been arrested. You got to think that conversation was a bit odd. Cathy, let's get to another viewer question. I know people have a lot of comments and a lot of questions for our guests, so let's go to another one.
Well, Chris, this is the biggest question. Do you think members of the Adelson family will be arrested?
I think eventually the state attorney's office in Leon County will make an arrest in this case. It's up to them to determine which one of the Adelsons that they charge, but I think that they've always had a plan to charge at some point, but they're hoping to be able to build their case with more witnesses, more cooperation. I think they're still holding out that Sigfredo Garcia would cooperate and the possibility that Catherine Magbanua would cooperate.
Chris, I just want to follow up on that question. Do you think there would be a situation where everybody, Harvey, Donna, Wendy, Charlie, would all be arrested? Would there be some that would be arrested? Would there be some that maybe a deal is worked out against the others? I know these are conversations and issues that have come up, and they have to have been had. What do you think is going to happen there? I mean, we're speculating here because none of them have been charged with anything, but do you think they would all be arrested?
Jesse, it's a great question. It's asking me to get inside the mind of the prosecutors handling the case, which I can't do. I can't even understand why they arrested Catherine Magbanua, let alone figure out what they would do with the Adelsons. It's been difficult for us to understand how they have operated in this case.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. I want to go to another recording that the jury heard. This one is between Catherine Magbanua, your client, and Charlie Adelson. Let's take a listen.
So she picks up the phone. First of all, she sounds exactly like you on the phone.
She sounded like me?
What's that?
What? She sounded like me?
Hey, look, for a second, she picks up the phone and goes, she's in the bathroom. And I thought that was like some kind of code for something or other. She's like, she's in the bathroom. And I'm like, is she fluid or is she in the bathroom? My head's like spinning. I'm like, what is she trying to tell me? I was thinking I was about to ask her, has she flushed or is she still floating? I want it flushed. Make it go away.
The whole bathroom scene.
I want it flushed.
No, she wasn't flushed. Okay.
So I'm fucking thinking. I thought this was like code. I'm like, Katie, Is she flushed or is she in the bathroom?
Oh my God, it's too funny.
And then I'm about to tell her, well, call me back when she's flushed.
Stop, man. I really could get mad.
I made it clear I want the problem flushed.
Oh,
All right, Tara, I want to go to you now. What do you make of that call? What was really being said here? Why was there even a discussion of using code language? You could see why the prosecution put it forward. And I guess my second question to that is, are we going to see Katherine Magbanua take the stand again, maybe to explain some of these conversations? So it's a two-part question for you. Okay, Chris, I'll tell you what, I'm going to go to you with that question. Again, what was the meaning of that call? What was really being said? Why was there this kind of code language? And do we expect, or should we expect, that Katherine Magbanua will testify again?
Jesse, I think we got Tara coming back in. She would be great at answering the question if her audio's up, but otherwise I'm prepared to answer that for you.
Okay, Chris, I'll start with you and then I'll jump back to Tara. How about this, Chris? You talk about the call, and then Tara, I'm going to talk to you about Magbanua testifying.
Okay.
So that phone call was it relates back to a phone call that was placed by Charles Adelson to Katherine Magbanua, but her friend Yindra Velasquez, who was a witness in the first trial, she answered the phone, and they have very similar voices. That recording in this question right here is a perfect example of what the prosecution tried to do in the trial. They wanted to focus, to get super, super focused in on a piece of evidence and make it look like it's something that has to do with guilt, sort of like the call that you played a moment ago concerning employment records. But staying on this, it's a phone call that if taken out of context, it looks like they're talking about code and we have this murder prosecution, they must be related. It's not. If you step back, look at the entire case, and look at it objectively, you can see this has nothing to do with the case. This has nothing to do with any code, any evidence. This has to do with a phone call that was placed to Katherine where Yindra answered the phone and that Charles Adelson thought that he was speaking to Katherine Magbanua.
Okay, Tara, I want to go to you because I know we might be running out of time. So I want to ask you two questions. One, are we going to see Katherine Magbanua testify? And let me ask you this. Are you going to call Sigfredo Garcia as a witness potentially at any point during this trial?
Well, we have him listed as a witness. We just haven't had the opportunity to even go and speak with him because of the COVID-19 situation. And prior to trial even starting, we weren't allowed to speak with him because he was facing charges and he was represented by counsel. So we actually on many occasions tried to facilitate a situation where we could all be in a room together, and the government kept objecting. We have been trying to do our part and what we can within the legal confines of the rules and try to figure out what happened. But we have had very limited access to Mr. Garcia. So once we speak to him, and we'll have more of an answer on that if he intends to testify, if we do in fact call him.
Okay, Tara, Chris, I know we ran out of time, but listen, thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate you taking the time. Stay safe. And everybody else out there, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to focus on the Scott Nelson case. Stay tuned. Welcome back, everybody. We want to focus now on the Scott Nelson trial. Here was a guy who went on the stand and admitted that he brutally murdered a nanny named Jennifer Fulford out in Florida. Unsurprisingly, he was convicted and sentenced to life in prison, but this was a chilling account. I've never seen anything like this. I've never seen any defendant take the stand quite like this. So I'll tell you what, this is a guy who blamed everyone but himself. Watch.
Where are you from?
Originally,
Sure.
I was born in the state of Massachusetts and raised in the state of New Hampshire.
Right. And you moved to Orlando in March or May of 2017, correct?
That's correct.
And you came here and then you were under the supervision of this individual by the name of Julio Dominguez.
That's correct.
All right. So Mr. Dominguez was a federal probation officer.
That's correct.
Okay. And Mr. Dominguez, according to your statement, is the individual responsible for Jennifer Fulford's death.
Yes.
Did Mr. Dominguez kill Jennifer Fulford?
No.
Who killed Jennifer Fulford?
I did.
All right. So you left unsaid why Mr. Dominguez is responsible for her death. Would you like to explain?
Yes.
Please do.
I was employed in Winter Park for a painting company by a alleged Christian family who took it in their interest because I was such a dedicated, hard worker, allowed me to live at their employment as well. Prior to that, I had been homeless after being released from federal custody, thrown to the street, homeless with no money.
Can you tell me who Julio Dominguez is?
Julio Dominguez is employed by the U.S. Department of Justice, United States Probation Office in Orlando, Florida.
Okay. And how is he related to this case?
Well, sir, he was my probation officer. I was on supervised release.
Okay, and what is the importance of his involvement in this case?
Well, sir, I'll be very frank with you. Jennifer Lynn Fulford would be alive today had it not been for Julio Dominguez.
And the reason for that statement, sir?
I think the world should know that. I mean, it's justice. The truth should be known, sir.
Okay. Have you ever been convicted of a felony?
6 of them, sir.
Yep, there he is. All right, we have a lot to talk about. I want to bring on my special guest, the host and creator of the Court Junkie Podcast. Jillian Jalali is with us. Jillian, it's great to have you here. And I want to talk right now about your latest episode, which is about the Scott Nelson trial. Why did you decide to focus on this case?
Well, I decided to focus on this case because, as everybody knows, defendants always have the right to take the stand in their own defense. But every time that happens, they don't always do. So every time that happens, my ears sort of perk up a little bit. And when Scott Nelson took the stand, it was absolutely wild. This is somebody who blamed everybody else but himself. And he spoke so coldly and so callously about murder that it was just absolutely wild. I mean, the title of my episode is The Arrogant Killer. And that is because I just felt that he exuded such arrogance when he was up on the stand. Like you said in the beginning, it was unlike anything I've ever seen.
Yeah, I couldn't take my eyes off the screen. It was absolutely cold-blooded, what I was listening to, absolutely chilling. Kathy, I want to bring back on Cathy Russin, our executive trial producer. I know people have a lot of comments and questions about this case. So what do we have for Jillian?
Oh, Scott Nelson, he's just the ultimate victim, isn't he? Yes, with this case, we had so much interest in this case when we covered it because, like you said, cold-blooded killer. So one thing that happened in this case is Scott Nelson said he wanted the death penalty. He said, kill me. And the jurors sentenced him to life. Jillian, why do you think they did that?
I think they did that because he basically went on the stand and was saying how awful life in prison would be and how it essentially made him into this homicidal maniac that he is now. And so, I mean, my personal theory is that maybe the jurors, didn't want to give him what he was asking for. And so instead of giving him the death penalty, they decided, no, you can stay in prison for the rest of your life now.
Yep, Jillian, I actually agree with you. I think that's probably what they were thinking. Let's go back to more of Scott Nelson on the stand.
I'm being honest with everything I say to you.
So what you're saying is that this other person who you don't know the name of now and don't know exactly where they lived, who is unconnected to Julio Dominguez, somehow led you to target Reed Berman.
That's fairly correct.
Okay? So because of you don't know Reed Berman, right?
Never met the man.
And you don't know or didn't know Jennifer Fulford.
No, I don't.
There was nothing that either one of them ever did to you that would have resulted in you taking some sort of revenge on them for, some moral cause.
I believe the term is collateral damage.
All right. You're saying that Jennifer Fulford was collateral damage as a result of your disliking Mr. Dominguez and how he treated you.
Well, I believe it's yes, but it's more accurate that he had a problem with me rather than I having a problem with him.
And did you direct your concerns to Mr. Dominguez or his supervisor?
Well, once I got thrown on the street with no job and stuff, there was really no sense in complaining to anyone. What are they going to do?
So that's a no?
That would be a no.
So scary. Jillian, have you ever seen anything like this where a defendant is basically saying everybody else is to blame but me? And I think that was a real key moment here in his testimony. I mean, what did you glean from that idea that he was just let off a leash, but others are to blame?
Yeah, I mean, that was absolutely striking. I think we've seen this before. I know a lot of my listeners have been comparing him to Jodi Arias, kind of blaming everybody else, blaming the victim. I believe he even made reference to his needs weren't being met. But I think the prosecutor nailed it and nailed the reasons why he did it. He was a very bitter man. He was blaming, the federal government for, punishment over what he had done prior. And so, yeah, I think he, was just very bitter and just wanted to blame everybody else but himself.
Let's go to another moment when he took the stand and everything he said, I've never heard anything like this before. It was completely outrageous. And you just have to think about what Jennifer Fulford's family had to hear. Here's more of Scott Nelson.
So you're saying that I'm trying to now manipulate something. The point is, you had a problem with somebody completely unrelated to Jennifer Fulford and Reed Berman, and you made a plan in September of 2017 to take your anger toward that person out on somebody like Jennifer Fulford.
I think that's accurate.
All right. Why not Mr. Dominguez?
Funny you should mention that. I happen to possess a 9mm handgun with 2 boxes of ammunition. They were in the house. Okay.
Overrule the objection.
You can finish.
I happen to have that gun. I was going to shoot him. And I believe in God because God was looking out for Mr. Dominguez that Saturday afternoon. Because me and him were in a part of Winter Park on Forsyth Street where on Saturday afternoon, there was no one on Forsyth Street.
Is it Saturday afternoon before you killed Jennifer Fulford?
No. This was like a month prior.
A month before, okay. So you wanted to kill Mr. Dominguez, and you had the ability and the tools to do so, and you made a choice at that time not to.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's very lucky.
All right. So back to the point, instead of carrying out that plan, you formed a new one.
Yes.
And for some reason, you turned your attentions, if you will, to the people of Winter Park.
Yeah.
Because you just didn't like the way they were treating you either.
I think that's a pretty fair assessment.
All right, so Mr. Dominguez, you don't like the way he's treating you. You think about killing him. You acquire the tools to do it and change your mind.
Wow. Jillian, let's just go back to a minute when people are joining us and wondering, well, how this is what his defense did. Was there any chance that his defense attorneys could get out of this? I mean, what was their defense in this trial for anybody who's just joining us?
You know, that's hard to say. I actually was wondering what the defense attorneys must have been going through. When it was their turn to present their case, you know, Scott Nelson made it very clear that he wanted to take the stand against his attorney's advice, and that he had one thing that he wanted to say, and that was to blame his probation officer. So I think he was just arrogant enough that he thought he could go on the stand and, you know, scapegoat his probation officer and kind of blame it on him. And
Right.
He was so arrogant enough that he thought he could take the cross-examination as well. But he just, you know, I think he definitely got caught up in the cross-examination and was not prepared for those questions.
I don't think anybody was prepared to hear what we ultimately heard. Jillian, we appreciate you coming on. I want everyone to listen to the Court Junkie Pod for the latest episode on this. When we come back, we're going to have with us one of the prosecutors who put Scott Nelson away. Stay tuned. Welcome back, everybody. We're still talking about the Scott Nelson trial. This was the man who was convicted of murdering Jennifer Fulford in cold blood and then took the stand and admitted what he did. We have so much to play of him on the stand. Right now, let's just go back to this very odd exchange that he had with the prosecution. Wow.
You look stressed.
Thank you for your concern.
You're welcome.
May I approach with 187?
Yes.
See down there at the bottom?
I see down there, yes.
Is that your signature?
I don't know how it got there.
Did you affix your signature to this photograph indicating that this was the bedroom that you had gone into on September 27th of 2017?
I don't remember doing that, ma'am.
Did you go in this bedroom?
I've never seen that bedroom before.
You didn't go into Reed Berman's bedroom and get the comforter off the bed so that you could put Jennifer Fulford in it, so that you didn't have to drag her out of the house kicking and screaming?
Reed Berman slept in that bed a couple nights, and he didn't even know the comforter was missing. Maybe he took it. They didn't report it.
Did you take the comforter off of the bed so that you could wrap Jennifer Fulford in it because you wanted to conceal her from the outside?
No,
You didn't wrap her in the comforter.
I didn't do that.
Who did it?
I don't know. I didn't do it. Maybe she did. Maybe she was cold.
All right, joining me now is one of the prosecutors who put that man, Scott Nelson, away. Kelly Hicks is with us. Kelly, thank you so much for taking the time. And as we're listening to this, I always wondered, did you and the team have any idea that he was going to take the stand, say what he said, and if not, what did you think when you were hearing what he had to say?
Well, I can tell you before the trial started, we were sure he would testify because every time he had spoken to law enforcement, he had confessed to this. So we believed that he would testify. But then as the trial went on, we started to believe that he wouldn't testify. So then when he actually took the stand, we were not sure what to expect.
And when you heard this, I mean, what did you think? I've never seen anything like it.
Me neither. And I've done a lot of trials in my career, and I had never seen anything like this. And you know, my co-counsel did the cross-examination, and she did an unbelievable job. And I was sitting at counsel table watching it, I think, just as engrossed as everybody else, and just shocked at what he was saying.
I mean, it was amazing. Amazing job, all of you, the whole prosecution, that you were able to put this maniac away. And to hear that cross-examination was something that we just have to keep playing. Kathy, let's go to another viewer question, because, again, people have a lot of thoughts about Scott Nelson.
Well, one thing we saw is that he can't really control himself. You know, he spoke out several times from the defense table during the trial. He had a lot to say. Of course, he wanted to take the stand. But now we're kind of wondering how he's faring in prison. Have you heard anything about what he's doing or how he's doing?
I actually looked him up to see what he looks like. I do that kind of often with my defendants. And he has filed his appeal. He is just sitting, serving his sentence of life in prison.
Yeah, good luck on that. Real good luck on that appeal. Let's play more of Scott Nelson here now, because really him taking the stand, we've talked about a lot on Law&Crime, one of the craziest things we've ever seen, and everything he said just got worse and worse. Take a look.
So you don't remember how Jennifer Fulford got out of the car?
We were picking a jury a few days ago. I can't remember some of that. And you want, this is 2 years ago.
The question was, you don't remember how Jennifer Fulford got out of the car?
There's something wrong with my brain.
Did you have her duct taped at the ankles and zip tied behind her back while she was in the car?
I don't know. Check the medical examiner's report. They can't determine either.
Right. Well, you're the one who put the duct tape on the ankles, no question, right?
I don't know.
You're the one that put the zip ties on her wrists.
I don't know.
You're the one who dropped the zip tie at the tree line, right?
I don't know. You want the truth? I'll give you the truth. So help me God. I don't remember. I can't remember everything. There's something wrong with my brain.
So when you open up the back of this hatch to the Hyundai, she's making a lot of noise, pleading for her life. You have to remember that.
I heard it yesterday. Where did I hear it? Oh, I heard it on the recording of the confession. How can you give out sheets of paper and tell them not to, whatever. But anyway.
You have to remember her begging for her life.
No, I really don't.
All right. So you remembered that in November of 2017 and told that to the detectives, but you can't remember it now.
It's been 2 years.
Okay.
Lots happened in 2 years. I've been abused a lot. We all get abused, don't we?
All right. And you have to remember that Jennifer was crying.
No, I don't. I don't remember that. No, she wasn't.
Begging you not to kill her.
I don't remember.
That she continued to get louder and louder, so you decided to duct tape her whole head. Not just her mouth, not just her eyes, her whole head.
Kelly, you have to explain this to me. Do you think he was lying on the stand at this point? Because he was very clear on who to blame and what happened, but then all of a sudden his memory gets foggy and it says his brain doesn't work. Do you think he was lying?
Yes, absolutely.
And what was the point? He had an agenda? I mean, what did he want from going on the stand? In your best estimate, what was going on here?
I believe he wanted to say what he wanted to say and nothing else. And I think what he wanted to talk about was his probation officer and how he's been treated in his life, but he didn't want to talk about anything else. He wanted to make it all about him. And if he tried to answer those questions about Jennifer Fulford, that would make it about her. And he didn't want it about her. He wanted the focus to be on him.
I couldn't have said it better. I mean, that really is what we all saw from this, a very selfish, arrogant, scary human being. And I just want to say congratulations to you on the team for, again, putting this monster away. So thank you again for that service. Thank you for coming on. And we do wish all the family members and friends of Jennifer Fulford well wishes. Hopefully this trial provided some sense of closure in a really ugly and horrible story. For all of everybody else out there, thanks for joining us today here on Law and Crime Now. We're going to be back on Friday talking about the biggest cases. Stay tuned. We'll be back then.